Sorry, everyone. The mute button got me. So just to recap, there's been one removal of one item from the agenda. That's the street address assignment. That's the only change to the agenda. We had a consent agenda, which includes abstract from the end of our most recently completed fiscal year, which ended May 31st last week. General fund totaling $401,488.03. Water fund totaling $21,227.05. Sewer fund totaling $18,646.26. And then we have our first abstract from the new fiscal year beginning June 1. General fund totaling $70,121.60. And water fund totaling $2,226 even. As well, we have meeting minutes from our May 11th meeting to approve. Would someone like to move the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. And you need to pull any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Item number 4 is our first public comment period. If any member of the public present in person would like to speak, please let me know. Use the microphone, state your name. You do not need to state your address. And if any member of the public online would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature, which is probably moved once again. Under React. I think it's under React, although this is the workplace version. It's the same on the user version, but try to find the raise hand button online if you have anything you would like to comment.
I have a comment, sure.
If you would please, microphone is for folks online and for the recording.
In the last 3 years, approximately 10 people I have personally seen trip on the sidewalk in front of my apartment. 2 of which fell, one bloodied, and the other told me a story that she packed her face in ice over at Little Venice. Is there some plan to actually fix the sidewalks? I know that something was fixed down at front of Sundries or wherever down there for the bricks, right? But this is actually the sidewalk.
Is it a heaved portion of sidewalk?
It's a heaved, and they're big pieces, so they're not single loading pieces of sidewalk.
Yeah, so as long, if we can just make sure that the village, meaning our DBW supervisor, is aware of it.
He was there yesterday.
Then
Yeah,
then
I've
he's
been
aware.
talking about this since Tom Meyer was here, so.
So if he's aware of it, then it'll be marked at least, and then fixed when they can.
The other question that, this is sort of a question. The tree in front of my house has been damaged multiple times because it's a commercial zone and 14-foot trucks come by and knock branches off of it. And so there are branches that are literally broken and open higher up in the tree, obviously. What is the responsibility of my landlord or whatever to meet commercial standards for trucks? Or what is the responsibility of the trucks not to knock down trees? Now, you had a problem, what, 8 years ago when they knocked down a lamppost, up the hill? Did they pay for that?
Yeah, so it depends on where the tree is actually located. So if it's in the right of way, then there are some laws which, well, I don't know, you may remember a couple of years ago, NICEAG came through and kind of chopped up a bunch of trees. So if the tree is in the road right of way, then theoretically it's the landlord's responsibility, but municipalities or utilities can also trim those. If the tree is further back but large, then it would theoretically be the landlord's responsibility to make sure that it's not encroaching on the road. Certainly wouldn't be a commercial truck's responsibility to avoid something overhanging the roadway.
Right, okay. All right. And I have a comment. This happened last year when you have some kind of a consortium of people that were going around and trimming trees on the street. And I stopped somebody in front of my apartment who was about to cut. He was looking at a branch of the tree and was about to cut the branch of the tree. Okay, I mean, I get the feeling about, doing something for the environment or whatever. But at the same time, the tree is standing there with two large branches that are broken, and the guy was ready to cut another branch. Without any of my, not that I have rights per se, but without asking my landlord whether that was going to happen or not. I found that I stopped him. He didn't do it, but I found that a little too much from my perspective. I would have felt better if he decided to cut the branches off that were already half broken, but he didn't do that for a good reason, actually, because it's parked cars there or whatever. But it sort of bothered me that I had to stop him to do that, and that he could have done something better by fixing the tree. Removing the broken branches that are exposed to diseases and whatever. So just a comment. That's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, Vivian.
Yeah, I'm shorter. So I'm Vivian Rose, and I'm here to talk about signage that says celebrating 250 years of freedom around the days that the resolution that you all passed a month ago. And I asked Alan if he would be willing to make some things that were like little signs that as you go into the village, it said celebrating 250 years of freedom days. And he said, talk to grassroots. Maybe they can help you. And she can tell you what happened when I tried to go talk to grassroots. I got stuck in their building. So here's a thought, which I hope you all got my suggestion. I'm stepping away to show you this picture, which you should know. Oh my gosh, it's basically the sign, Alan's sign that you see on 227. You see it in 96 here coming in, and you see it down by the Sure Save. And underneath the Trumansburg, there's the panel that says home of Gigantic Falls, Grassroots, and Farmers Market, I think. That panel is 24 by 70. And I am able to get banners that say celebrating 250 years of freedom for that size that can wrap around that. And I'm wanting to know if that's an okay thing for me to do with my nickel to have those up so that as people are driving in, they know that we're celebrating 250 years of freedom. They all have the email, Jessica. So that's what I could do. A designer would make it match the lettering that's actually there. So it looks like it belongs to that, but it would be black letters on white because that's easiest and cheapest. Jessica said you could do a nod and tell me yes or no, or how would you like to proceed to have some kind of signage?
So in all honesty, I had not had a chance to review that email since it just came in this afternoon. I don't know if anyone else has had a chance to look at it.
That forwarded that portion.
Was that your only comment? We can.
But if it's 2 weeks from now, it's not happening.
So quite honestly, Vivian, here's the problem. I love the idea. And I love your enthusiasm. The problem is we've been around the legal block with signage and flags a couple of years ago. And so we are unfortunately paralegals when it comes to signage and flag law. So the issue we have is that if a member of the public if we give permission for a member of the public to display a sign for any purpose on village property or potentially on our village signage, we lose the ability to decline the next person, regardless of the type of sign or flag they may want to put up. We basically have a First Amendment issue with respect to that. So while I love the idea and the statement for your banners, and I appreciate your generosity and willingness to foot the bill, I tremble at the idea of what the next potential, or the one after that, or the one after that, or the one after that, in an election year, could potentially force the village to accept.
So can I ask, so you're thinking of it as a First Amendment right, as I would be on to happen?
No, it would be a non-village. It would be a citizen's request to display a piece of signage on village property. Wouldn't matter whether it's a campaign style sign or a banner draped over an existing sign or a flag on a pole.
Did I imagine that you passed a resolution a month ago that said celebrating 250 years of freedom days, July 7th, July.
You sure did.
Yeah.
We sure did, but that resolution didn't request signage. The sign, and I'm not being facetious, that Ben wandered even deeper down the rabbit hole than I did over some of these things. It's shockingly ridiculously, unnecessarily complex when it comes to the ability of a municipality to decline to allow a citizen to display something, once we allow anyone to display something.
So I can take a sign the size of a brain dead sign, put that same stuff on it and stick it in anywhere.
In your yard.
I
In
think
your
you're
yard.
onto something that I didn't think about.
But brain dead has their stuff on village property and right away over there for advertising. It's, you know, the regular little that sign, size sign. That are not expensive. But they could be anywhere. Because they are just signs.
And they'll be,
Right away.
and there's
Is that-
there's nothing to prevent the removal of those signs. In fact, if they're on village property, they
They
should
should
be
be
removed.
removed.
So can you, we as the village, do signage? You must, you do signage. So what is the law? I get the part about letting somebody else have access.
Yeah.
Because then you're also do whatever anybody else has to, because then it's a each issue. But you can put up a sign, right?
Sure.
Okay. Wow. So he wants your sign.
Okay. If I have the signs together, we could best, we can put them up.
Well, it depends whether we want to put those signs up or not.
Your gut reaction is the same as mine, that we're in dangerous territory, that what it feels. Right, I mean, we talked about the flag policy for 6 months.
Mhm.
List of us. The idea that we would then bypass the policy by saying it's not a flag, it's on ground. Feels bizarre to me, I mean, not that I mean to. I don't know, it feels needlessly bureaucratic and sort of frustrating, and I apologize for that, but.
No, that's fine.
I mean, what are we?
It's about the 300.
Okay, you have that. Does the village have to have open discussion of all signage that the village is going to put in place, the village should put in place before it happens?
No, the village doesn't have to have any discussion about signage. It is putting into place. But we don't display
I mean, on
signage.
your, on.
Yeah, we don't display signage except at the village entrances. So if, for instance, if we're going to replace, well, we are replacing the sign in front of the village office.
Right. You listen, whatever, right, you just replace it, right, so you have, as a village, you have some legal right to.
So if
The
this.
signage of your choosing.
Sure, so if this board was inclined to design our own signage to celebrate the 250th.
Right.
We certainly could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, I got my answer, I appreciate your time.
Go look at my house. I got banners and everything to
read it every entrance. Thank you. Oh, great.
Let's see, if you figure out.
Other public comment. Whenever Maureen's here, I feel like there's other public comment.
No, I wanna hear more about the Berks on Main Street.
Oh.
No.
The firehouse.
Brooks on Main Street, bringing on a packed house still.
Yes. Just waiting to see if anyone raises their hand. Wait. That is some glare, wow.
Move over.
Look at.
Stun
There
hat
you
for
go.
the, need a little.
Now you have a halo.
Into the light.
Now you're full halo.
Oh, wow.
Okay, if there's no additional public comment, we will move on to item number 5, which is reports from this board. We have a couple of professional service proposals, which we should have covered at our last meeting, but slipped my attention. First is the actual proposal for scope of services and work for the renovation project for the fire department. As we know, we have $3.5 million of congressional appropriation, which will be spent on that. Scope of services, if we had more time, would be something we could consider bidding out, but MRB has been our engineering firm for a long time and has been closely involved in all of the discussions around renovations or new buildings or whatever the case might have been, as well as our grant app. They put in our grant application for various number of grants. Scope of services work is closely tied to project costs. It's broken out by, my scroll button wants to work. It's broken out by schematic design, design development, construction documentation, which can be significant. And when we go out to bid for contractors, there will be bid administration. Then there's construction administration, construction observation. And for anyone keeping track at home, if you ever wonder why it costs a lot more to build the same building for a municipality than it does for the private individual, this is why. So total scope of services, fees for the fire department renovation would total a not to exceed number of $532,000. On the EMS side, as we're talking about building a new EMS building with a lower total value, you'll see the similar breakdown or breakout of costs for a total of $261,000. And so what's the pleasure of the board? Would you like to move both of these at once or discuss them individually?
I would move that we accept both proposals.
I agree.
Is that a second, Marsh?
Yes, I second that.
Comments, questions, discussion?
The second, the total cost being. Is. That, yes, they're not that. That huge piece of it, but it's just, it feels great. We always talk about this, the difference in this whole project, but the idea of seeing. Construction observation for that one building. It's so. So the top.
This is more the site work probably, but yeah, no, I hear
I
you.
mean, it is what it is, it's not really, it's just a comment, and just a response there, it's just.
Yeah, it's $100. It's $100 a square foot private sector. I know that
Yeah.
at the moment for that type of construction. Interior is a little more. But we're 3x that. Unfortunately. Other comments or questions? Gripes?
I'll hold my grapes.
Be clear, I have more things. I will. Go right my time.
Okay, well, if there are no additional comments. Questions or gripes to be aired, all in favor of approving MRB's proposal for professional services for both the fire department renovation and the EMS facility new construction, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Not to scoop Marcia, but I will just make a quick comment. For though anyone who was able to attend the annual fire company dinner this past Friday evening, it was a nice event, well attended. New line officers sworn in. Dan Shearer, former deputy chief, is now our fire chief. And I will just publicly thank Matt Taylor, our outgoing fire chief, for his 6 years of service. I did speak at the banquet briefly. Matt became chief in April of 2020. Seems like a million years ago, and what an interesting year 2020 was. So I've known Matt for 30 plus years, but it was an interesting experience having to navigate emergency services during COVID, and that was his first year as chief. So he did a great job and has served the fire department and the village well over the last 6. So thank you, Matt, for your years of service. Is it 17 in the fire company?
Mm-hmm.
So years of service to the fire company and his most recent stint as fire chief. And then a comment that incoming Chief Shearer made at the banquet, which I was not aware of the exact numbers. We have exactly half the membership in the fire company that the fire company had 15 years ago. So volunteerism continues to decline. It's a national trend. But of those current members, almost 2/3 are interior rated firefighters, which is unheard of for a small fire company. So kudos to the fire company membership for pushing back against generational trends in volunteerism. So Marsh.
Okay, I could cross off like most everything. No, that's okay. Again, the dinner was amazing. We had 41 calls for May. And one incident that did occur, there was a boathouse fire on the lake. And Lansing's fireboat responded extremely quickly, they said. And that's one thing that the fire department is going to do, is they're gonna kind of coordinate and cross-train with Lansing so that if something like that happens in the future, everybody knows what they need to do, and they have some experience with the Lansing fireboat as well. So they're gonna try and get some trainings together for that. They're working with the park for signage on access roads for fire and EMS. So that it's pretty clear where the EMS and fire, so that parking and access roads don't get blocked down there when we have an emergency and need to go down there. They've recertified drivers. They're going through the hydrant systems. Tony Whitaker, once again, got a county-wide award for basic life-saving services. That was a pretty big deal. And one more thing is we inducted Lucas Van into the fire company. And he will be the 5th generation of vans in the fire department. So we did get, I think, 3 new younger members this past month. So that's kind of nice to see young people having an interest in that. So hopefully that continues. Other than that,
Did they happen to mention, do you happen to know whether Lansing is keeping their boat in the water? Because I know there was some conversation about them not.
if they didn't bring that up, I don't know, I can find out, but they did mention that the response, I'm assuming because they said the response was really quick.
It'd be great if they do, because it was, Joel might know, we had several years without a fireboat on the lake.
And this was a.
Go ahead, Joel, you can unmute.
Last I heard, it is in the water at Myers Point.
Hold on, it says you're talking, but we can't hear you.
It's in the water at Myers Point.
We're still not hearing you, Joel.
You're turning most of everything off.
Any luck now?
I show you unmuted,
Is-
but we just don't have
Is the
audio.
volume on the computer, or no, it's, I don't know if that's.
It shouldn't affect the audio.
How about now?
It might, because I think it comes through these speakers. So
Can you hear me?
it might.
Try it now, Joel.
Talking, can you hear me?
Yeah,
There you
there we go.
Thanks, Joel.
Last update I had, it's in the water at Myers Point.
That's what I
Excellent.
thought.
Excellent. Good news. Okay.
Would you have to select music?
Just turn it was muted, so you just turn the volume up just a tiny bit and it unmuted. We could also switch it so it goes to the owl feature, might be one less moving piece.
All right. EMS Youth and Street, speaking of trees, Street Tree Advisory Committee.
I don't have much to report. Let me just get to the EMS call report. So 15 in the town of Coburg, 1 to Hector outside of our service area, 4 Hector in our service area, 3 are like in 2 city of Ithaca, 5 in the town of Ithaca, 4 Mecklenburg, 1 Mayfield. 2 Ovid, 1 Romulus, 53 in the village, and 26 in this east. We'll also know it is not on the on our agenda for this evening, but we had talked about the billing rate changes. Joel has presented. That really, and just a blur. Sorry to everyone who's online. Needs this evening. But that was sort of backburned for a little bit, but it will be back up for next week. So, but in advance, I'll send that out. We have some time to prep, and then hopefully to the public who's interested, we will be discussing. What's the other thing about dates. And to be clear, that is not our next meeting this month, but our first regular meeting. in July.
Oh, July.
That's all then.
Okay. Speaking of EMS calls, I'll just add, I was an invited guest at the Town of Ithaca's board meeting earlier this evening. They start theirs at 5:30, something to consider for the future. Because they are becoming interested in knowing more about how ambulance service is provided to the town of Ithaca, since they do not have an ambulance service themselves, and rely on bangs for coverage, and have started to hear more about how Trumansburg is responding 5 times in the town of Ithaca, and Dryden Ambulance is responding regularly to the eastern part of the town of Ithaca. So it was nice to have that conversation earlier, and I hope the town of Ithaca continues to engage on the topic. DPW, water, sewer, CPZR, and farmers market.
Sure. Figure since we've got a crowd here to talk about Brookfields, that we can just jump in right there. I do have a couple other items, but we can get to those afterwards. So as we all probably are aware, the brick fields on Main Street are somewhere between okay to very much not so. A lot of them are sinking in, causing a lip between the brick field and the concrete, causing a trip hazard. We've had people trip. The reason I talked with David this weekend was because my daughter was riding her bike and got on the brick field and then half tumbled over trying to get out of the brick field. So we need a plan, and we've gone around a couple different times on how to approach this. Some of the things that are to be considered is just the potential cost and time, depending on what kind of approach we take there. Also recognizing that there's named bricks in some of them. Maybe we want to reuse or retain those in some way, maybe we don't. So these are some of the like kind of constraints that we've talked about. This is a little bit of this board and as well as myself with DPW. So after going back and forth a couple times, I asked Dusty to put together a couple of possible options. And I think he worked also with Noah Demarest on a couple of different ideas. And so that's where we ended up with the document that's now as part of the agenda packet with kind of a handful of options, which I can kind of talk us through briefly. And my hope is that we can come out with this with ideally one preferred option that we can hand back to the DPW for their planning and to start thinking about how to start attacking these brick fields over some, couple of years or more. There's quite a few of them. Start with the worst ones, continue from there. And then start kind of building this into the plan around sidewalks and such. So I'll just run through the options briefly. Basically, this is most of these are taking that curved arc where there's bricks, pull out the bricks, and then the question is, what do you put back in? We could put in lawns. Lawns are, certainly look pretty low complexity to install. But there's a lot of maintenance concerns about how does that deal with snow removal? How does that deal with, kind of all the inclement weather we have over time? We could go with poured concrete with a brick edge. And so that allows us to retain some of the kind of bricks, potentially reuse ones, most of the names. There's not all of them are named. It would require some amount of effort to figure out how to make sure that brick edge doesn't then also sink down. But I think there's ways that I understand that there's options for that. I guess we're not taking the first time around because everything sunk so much. We could just pull everything out and put concrete in. We could pour everything out and put blacktop in. There's kind of a middle ground of some sort of dyed concrete. So maybe like a reddish tinged concrete, which would be probably one of the easiest and cheapest to put in. I think that's the one that Dusty kind of is recommending from a balance of how much effort and time and cost goes in. My personal take, just to kind of throw it out there to start, is I do like the idea of trying to get a brick edge and then pouring that concrete inside. It could either be dyed or it could be, just kind of, you could figure out a way to kind of like score lines or something in it. So there's also pictures to go along with this. These are kind of AI generated, but they kind of give you a sense of what the visuals might look like. And then there is the option of like truly tear everything apart, start over fresh, do some sort of nice fancy brick edging, but then concrete squared off, no longer have this like arc situation. I think everyone likes the look, but realizes the cost and effort there is pretty large. So with those options and those pictures there, just kind of want to open up the conversation to see if there's inclinations from this board one way or another, and see if we can't get to an option that we feel comfortable with.
How much of this can DPW do versus contracting?
I think, probably all of it regardless. I suppose if we went with kind of the like start fresh completely over, that might be a little out of their wheelhouse. But I think if it's pulling up the brick field, they've already pulled one up before and reset it. So if they're pulling it up and just pouring another concrete pad, they can handle that. I think as long as the general shape of it stays the same, it's pretty manageable. They don't seem to have a concern with dyeing concrete. They looked at that. They did at one point look at stamped concrete as the other option. You can kind of put a pattern on it and it can look kind of brickish. They probably could do that, but they don't have any experience with it and they're a little nervous about it. So that one actually didn't make the list of options. I think it's kind of potentially out there, but it might not be possible in-house depending on complexity.
I mean, my initial thought is that number 2 looks nice, but similar to our conversation about signage, how do we decide whose brick gets kept and whose brick gets tossed?
It's a good question. I guess my hope and assumption is that we'd be able to hold on to all the named bricks but that's probably just a hope and a wish that's probably unlikely to be necessarily true.
Wouldn't those heave eventually?
We quantify how many bricks we have.
Quite a lot.
I actually don't
So
think
I
so.
can get that number for you, and it would be a question of how many bricks. It's
Um,
over 900.
I mean, I certainly, my concern with keeping any bricks is
Heaving, that's what I'm worried
our
about.
climate. And what happens in the winter, and unless
Yeah.
DPW is gonna go around every spring and
Whack 'em back.
reset the ones.
My understanding is what you're supposed to do, I guess, is pour a concrete pad and then you would like put the brick on. And then pour like the colored brick or just the colored concrete or the straight concrete next to it, but it does add complexity and I understand why Dusty isn't thrilled about it. When you look at the kind of a moderate to high complexity cost to install, it definitely is a step up and there's more maintenance concern if they aren't as stable as we hope they would be.
Has there been any discussion about where we could move the bricks to make them visible to the people who have purchased bricks?
Not specifically. I know we've talked a little bit of this board of we could hold on to them, offer them back to people. We could hold on to them and keep them available for future use if we find them, but I don't think we have a project in mind today
Yeah.
that would require brick.
Yeah,
Do they remain in time?
I think so. I mean, like mostly,
Yes.
yeah.
What was the question?
If they remain intact once from the bricks, like if we're talking.
It really depends how you look.
They're so susceptible to salt.
I mean, they've pulled up one of these fields and relayed it, and they mostly could maintain most of the bricks.
Really?
But I don't think, some of them still break sometimes, but more of them were kept than not.
I tend to go with just the plain concrete without the bricks around, as much as it is lovely. I don't think it's practical for snow removal,
Now, would you go with a colored, like try and get an like a brownish kind of brickish sort of color, or are you saying just a straight pour concrete, call it a day?
I don't have a preference. He's got the color on that, right? On one of them.
The last one.
The last one.
Is basically kind of colored.
I mean, the regular concrete more matches what the sidewalk looks like, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it will look new, yeah. It's close, but it's
Yeah.
not quite the same.
Can it match my old 15-year-old TV?
Will this change the drainage at all? Not watering a tree, but I mean just drainage, because that does absorb water right now.
The bricks you're saying?
It is true, so this was one of my ideas too, that there is permeable concrete. But I imagine that adds level of cost and also expertise, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky and then requires kind of regular cleaning and maintenance to remain as permeable. That's my understanding, but I'm
I
very.
don't know anything about it. I know it exists, that's not, I only that.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. I don't know the difference between concrete and brick on the water absorption and so forth. Yeah.
It's definitely true. To some degree, I mean, they're fairly cheaply, really, so it's not as much as my other one.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the grass too.
And whatever.
I don't think they're.
But I think it would be a,
Maintenance.
it would be a pain maintenance. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
what you like and what's practical isn't always the.
It's fairly dangerous, like the thing that has always made me upset about is because of the curve. Anyone who's mobility impaired at all has to like do this maze to our main street, that's just like. Really frustrating.
Grass does nothing with a trip edge.
No,
Oh, it makes it so much worse.
yeah,
And not to mention after it's plowed for a year, right?
Right.
It's not easy.
Well, that,
yeah,
and the picture looks nice, but it's gonna look like that for 2 months.
2 months, right, exactly.
Where's there? There's somewhere, like right, if you step back from that, sort of, there's like two of them and go like this.
Mhm.
It's like. No,
I favor the concrete. Just the,
Yeah,
I think I would lean colored concrete after hearing all our conversation.
I mean, I don't care one way or another, but I just think concrete is more practical as far as snow removal and the thing that, and the idea that Ben brought up about, just being able to navigate the sidewalk so much safer.
did you have a comment, Maureen?
Well, that all changed in front of the Presbyterian Church a couple of years ago, because all the brick that was there was doing the same thing it's doing wherever you're referencing in town. So the bricks were removed and it was, and we removed the grassy areas and it is all concrete, which makes it easier for accessibility for everybody, so that is sort of a, looking back, that's been in place now, I think. 3 years maybe,
Yeah.
and it's much better access for everybody.
And the option for all of this too is we should try one of these and then go look at it. If we absolutely hate it, we can make a different decision before we invest in doing all of them.
we'll say my gut is. I think, for edging. Looks too bad. Right, it can maintain some of the. Like. Elevated aesthetics of what would happen. That would be my gut, if there really is such a thing, it's a racial foundation for it, so they're not exactly.
Right.
It's a two-step pour.
It's just. I don't know a lot about everything. Or
Yeah.
My understanding for the color is it might still be a 2-step pours. You pour the bottom and then you pour like a colored layer on top. But I guess I don't know. This is kind of getting out of my wheelhouse.
I mean, my honest preference is whatever is going to be the least expensive and easiest to maintain, quickest to do. Which may not all be possible at the same time, but.
Well, I mean,
In terms of safety and removing trip edges. It's not always worth doing it as quickly and as inexpensively as possible, but in this case, it sort of feels like that's the.
I think the simplest is just pull it all up and put concrete in and call it a day. I think a very small step up that's not particularly more work is to color it, and that gives a little bit of visual differentiation. That's what I think I'm kind of needing. I do think I agree with you, Ben. I really do like that brick edge look. But it is gonna be another step in. If nothing else, risk right now. We don't really know what that looks like, and we won't know for putting it in and waiting a year or two, which.
I mean, the other option too is if DPW is doing it. Right, we don't have to bid this for contracting,
Yeah,
then they could do one of each.
Mm-hmm.
Do a plain concrete, do a brick edge concrete. Color makes me nervous because you've got to mix.
it's,
And if you get it wrong.
I am a little worried if like it's gonna be inconsistent between
Yeah.
ones. It's not, if they're not too close to each other, that might be okay, but you want to be pretty close on color.
And maybe if they do a couple, if they do, one plain, one colored, one brick edge in different locations, picking the worst trip edge hazards, and we really like it, then. Not sure if I go for this or not, but maybe we do all three in different locations. Some plain, some colored, some brick edge. Larger field in front of the bank, maybe gets a brick edge, If they're doing the work that's not contracted, then. Maybe we have the luxury of doing some mix and match experimentation.
I would agree with that and take it a step further. Like the area in front of the bank could be that, it could be, I mean, it's so big. And there are areas where it's like, I would rather have that just be straight, like the Garrett's, Sundries, kind of that area.
That's a slow.
Yeah,
It's just wild, so that I would love to just have flat on it. It's hard, I just pulled up the street view, so I'm trying to picture it, but like maybe one of
Yeah.
those is. The one kind of in the middle. You know, the ones on the building side could be just flat concrete, and the other ones.
Be-
Could be brick edge or something, so it's a little, right, it provides the
I
stability.
like the idea of like, if there's kind of a reason for madness, you know, like, behind it, that like, yeah, the building side is full, paved in, and then we have to look at what that looks like. We can start with. They might even do, they might not be that, they might be able to do a couple and go, especially if they're kind of. In nearby areas, we kind of try to put those out.
I'm just looking at the street view, but like in front of the bank in particular,
That is huge.
it's actually, I mean, it's. Huge.
You should probably ask the bank's opinion on that too.
Yes, that's true.
As a courtesy, because
Oh, absolutely, I mean, they do a great job with their landscaping, and they take care of part of what's in the middle of our.
Right.
Sidewalks, so that would be. Tired. But yeah, there's two very large sections that, to my mind, be paired. Then maybe. Cemented, you know, put a walk through, something creative will be done, and that I think will look really great, something to start to feel like a park instead of a giant swan concrete. Should be really nice.
We'll have to realize that we'll be able to move snow from there. Easily. You can't plow
But there's enough concrete remaining
that
that
it
you
does.
would still plow, and you just plow into the grassy area, same as everywhere else.
Yeah,
Like you wouldn't clear the garden.
right, just want to.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, that's where we're leaning, I'm happy to bring this back to the DPW and say, let's start identifying. A few different places, it sounds like we would like, okay, there's some opportunity for grass, opportunity for brick edge, potentially an opportunity for. Maybe just straight plain straight or.
Mhm.
some of the smaller brick fields on the south side of, oh, yeah, that one. But the directly across from the bank. Basically from the car wash to the laundromat. There's some smallish brick fields, and that's where all the tripping is happening.
Mhm.
Don't know if we need to get fancy there,
Right,
but the bank one's interesting.
Yeah, well, and all of the ones you just mentioned are also where people have outdoors.
Right,
Feels like,
you wouldn't put grass there anyway.
yeah. Well, and you also don't really need that.
Right,
Right, it's a convenient spot. I don't have a good idea of this aesthetically. Which getting at.
Well, I think the way to make that-
I don't think so.
yeah, I think that, and I think Noah has already kind of offered, it's done a little bit this time, maybe interested in doing a little more time, I can ask him. You know, I think even just having poured concrete, but scoring it to line up with the other lines on the other concrete that's around it, just like ties it in nicely, you can do. Some pretty simple things and just make it look intentional. All right, I think this gives me enough to go back to the DPW and kind of take another step at it and see if there's more of this we can bring back here.
Okay. Yeah, if any of this can be. Started soon enough for us to get some done. But now it'll give us a chance to.
Yeah. I'll see, I mean, this is probably something maybe for a brief executive session, but just they're down a person right now, so. We'll see how much they can put on their plate, but I can definitely bring this back to them, we can keep talking about it.
Stussy got summer hires.
Yeah, so that's,
Inbound.
look at that, great segue, summer hires.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Will they do the sidewalks at the same time?
I,
Because my sidewalks, as I said, people trip on it all the time, so. And as you know, not the brick part. but
Right.
The sidewalk.
I have my meeting with Dustin tomorrow, so I'll see what his plan is. My
I mean, you
assumption,
saw it.
my assumption there is that that's modest enough, it could probably be ground down and not have to replace the whole thing. So if it's just a grinding down, I think that should be able to be something that's done pretty simply and quickly. Otherwise. I mean, anything's possible. We do have kind of a annual intention to do a section of sidewalk somewhere in the village, whether that's setting new sidewalk down Elm Street, which we did a year or two back, or repairing a corner. We've talked a number of times about the corner by the library is heaved in a bunch of different places. Dealing with brick fields, like there's quite a long list of different places. So we're kind of keeping a list of issues that we're aware of, prioritizing those, going after them, you know.
In your process of prioritization. Timing. Would there be any plan in the interim to indicate to people that they could trip?
Yeah, no, so I don't, again, I'll talk with Dusty tomorrow, but typically what I've seen happen, so like I can think of a couple of different places where this happened. They come out and spray paint it like
Yeah,
a
I can do it
bright
myself.
orange. I mean, you're probably more than welcome, but give me a day or two, like I'm gonna talk with Dusty tomorrow. But normally that's what I understand that they do is they flag it in some way.
Yeah.
Until they can come back and kind of deal with it, and some places it's grinding it down, some places it's trying to kind of lift it up a little bit if they can. Sometimes it requires pulling the whole thing and re-pouring it, it just depends on the situation. Yeah. So yeah, so DPW summer help, we do have an open listing with civil service. They are working on trying to bring in summer help. I know they've been talking with your office. It sounds like we have some idea of how the finances would work for that, since it's kind of a different, not something we'd anticipated needing initially. But that is in flight. I haven't heard of any applications yet.
The postage just went on Friday, but
Okay.
they were serviced. The website, their newsletter, their Facebook page for DPW and Facebook page for the village, and then of course their civil service. So tell your friends.
Summer help, great for high schoolers, someone back from college.
Someone wants position.
Yep, all sorts of good opportunities. One other thing I wanted to touch on, because I saw an email floating around of needing to rebid the roof for this building. Is
Yeah.
that something we should talk about? I think that mostly what I wanted to call was just to call it to attention of this board that we realize we have to go rebid that again. That sucks. On a positive note, we had a couple of desires if we were to have to go rebid that and how we might change that up. So I talked with the DPW. They're gonna think about how to structure that bid a little better this time around. Ben, I know you had suggested you have experience in that too, so I asked them to reach out to you as well. Once they've done some of that. And then we'll figure out how we go back out and try and drum up as many, ideally more than one applications or submissions for that.
And I will add that last time, we did not put it on the state posting.
Okay.
Board, which garners a lot more attention across the state, and I'm told Lansing just had a project that got 7 bids. And the winning bid was from a contractor in Long Island, who may have been subcontracted out, but it was meant to be encouraging.
Okay.
That maybe there's better ways to broadcast it
Right.
higher.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. I think the DPW is also more motivated to try and just to fine tune and then to just put the word out to as many other
Okay,
contacts and businesses as they're aware of.
especially. See where they're, I can support them.
Yeah, go for it. I don't think they've done any of that. I mean, I think they're thinking about the structure of the bid. I don't think they put it out to anybody,
Okay.
but you know, I think we kind of put it out and we could cast a broader net both with posting boards and just, you know, contractors and
Okay,
groups that they're familiar with, so. We will start that back up. The last thing before I'm done is Jessica and I had gone back and forth on I gotta find it, a quote from MRB for a hydraulic water model proposal. This is something we talked about in March.
Yep.
But I guess we never actually moved, or at least we don't have record of us moving forward to sign.
so I think you intended, because it was meant to be in this system.
That might be accurate. So then now it is this fiscal year. And so here we are. So just to recap briefly, this is a hydraulic model of our water system. The intention is that by mapping out pressures across the system, you can get a decent sense of strains and stresses within the system, and then that can give you a sense of where you might have the most wear and tear, and where, if we want to slowly start thinking about replacing water mains over time, or checking a water main area, replacing it, and then seeing, did we really have to, what can we learn about the system, just to continue to build our knowledge of the system so we can be moderately proactive instead of just waiting for large mains to fail. This is separate from our usual water main breaks over the winter, which are, we understand those, just to recap for everybody. That is more about the gravel that the water main is placed in, and the heaving over the winter actually pushes a rock into the main. So it's not that the main itself is compromised, it's more that the way it was installed, they didn't install as well 50+ years ago, causes impact on the water main. So those, we don't need to replace large stretches for that, but at the same time, we've had water mains in the ground for, I don't know, 50+ years. In certain areas, they have a finite lifetime to them. So I'd like to get some more information about it. Anyway, that's the spiel. So this is a proposal to start working on that. I believe our intention was to break it over 2 years, 2 different years. Yeah, here it is, right? So we have one phase starting this year. They actually have 3 phases, 2 of them this year and 1 next year. So it'd be $28,000 this year, $20,000 next year out of the water fund, for a total of $48,000 is their scope of work. So I would move that we authorize Rorden to sign this hydraulic water model proposal from MRB.
Second. Other comments or questions? How many breaks did we have this winter total? Relatively low.
I feel it goes relatively low.
Low to
Yeah.
mid single digits.
Yeah, I want to say like, yeah.
That's good. All right, if there's no comments or questions, and all in favor of approving the proposal for professional services from MRB for our hydraulic water model, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Well, that is all for me.
Trustee Haynes is excused for the evening. Clerk Treasurer's office.
I did not put reports from legislators.
I didn't even think about that. Are you here to, did you have something you wanted to present to us, or are you?
I know, I'm gonna answer the question. I decided what they were. Oh, no, I didn't. There's.
I do appreciate your update emails, sir. Those are helpful.
They flush out the newsletter nice and thick.
Yeah, clerk treasurer's.
Okay, so right, you tabled that street assignment. The EV charger, you may have noticed on at Quarry Street location, the fast charger. The screen has become compromised. It's a little bit unclear exactly how that happened, though it is this police department's firm belief it was not in. It needs to be replaced. Insurance will cover. There's a quote in the Dropbox. We are required by contract to maintain this because of grant that we got. So there's a quote for $6,310, $5,875, I believe, is covered by insurance. But I wanted to make that explored. Yeah, I don't have the authority to. That's.
Was it not? Where did you?
So, not surprisingly, the hardware company saying we can see a point of impact. We have no cameras on site to say. So what if it was a lawnmower? I'm wrong. But they're gonna show you pictures.
Right.
It's so teeny tiny that you couldn't harm, but there is a suggestive potential. Spread seriously, which is why the police could say this is like it would be arrested. Right. So I guess that's it. I'm glad you asked that then because I'm wondering. So the replacement is covered essentially, but what do we do? If anything to protect that in the future, do we wanna invest in cameras? Looking at it, the Jacob who installed our hardware has done over 100 installs, has never once seen this happen.
Of course. I have a question. Do we have an EV maintenance line in our budget?
An EV2.
Like, for the chargers?
Because they're under warranty for, so yes and no, they're under warranty for the first couple of years, then we had to purchase an extended warranty, which is already covered. Which would deal with hardware failures.
Right, but
So
not
that's in there.
these particular
But not
instances,
random
nor,
events.
or say vandalism should that happen.
But insurance would cover.
Insurance.
Insurance is covering this.
Right, but it's not covering everything, right?
I mean, ultimately, yes. Tiny amount, when we did increase the insurance.
Okay.
So I guess, yes, Marcia. It's in
Yeah.
the budget through insurance and paying for the contract for.
Okay.
Maintenance.
So I'm just wondering if, if we do have any out of pocket that we might want to have a cushion, if that's necessary to have some sort of
Yeah,
little buffer in there to.
we explore other aspects of warranty to see in any way we have exposure. That's a good point. And then should I investigate the cost of a camera? Versus no surveillance, the ones that we do have sort of watching other assets in that area don't catch where the charge is.
It's not inexpensive to have a camera.
It's not inexpensive to have the continuous loop that keeps it
Yeah.
for 30 days. So, but maybe that's information I'd like to have, what that costs, because I believe it's something like that. 3+ grand.
3 or 4.
That doesn't seem like it would pay back unless we had this 2 more times.
Yeah.
I know Joe was initially worried that people would park there inappropriately. But that to me is. I could just go as is.
Okay.
This is an unfortunate occurrence that both you all recur.
If we think it's possible it was a lawnmower thing, does the DPW at least aware that this happened, just so they could like,
Yes, because it would not have been related to that.
okay. I see.
It would be intriguing to ask if there's, like a cell phone, just simple screen cover or something like that.
Oh, extra protection.
Yeah, just sort of, copy with Jacob.
Yeah,
Switch side trying to do.
yeah,
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah,
Right, I mean,
smart.
right, being generous, if most of these are in a parking lot facing a parking lot, you're not gonna have a lawnmower ejecting little rocks at it,
But it
but
does seem like people pulling out or people in the unknown spray.
maybe that doesn't seem quite as violent as a lawnmower can shoot a rock.
That's-
Yeah,
Does happen in the winter for.
which does.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
losing their,
Okay, so I'm hearing going to check and see if we can get extra screen protection and we all the cost of camera and then you could just move forward with the repair.
Yeah, so I would entertain a motion to approve the quote. For repair of. The EV charging station LCD screen for a total of $6,310.
So, second,
Other comments or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Alright.
Opposed, any abstentions?
Now the fun stuff. What do we get insurance for, huh? Am I right? The firefighters banquet, you already covered it, Porch Fest. We don't have exact numbers because we don't have a drone taking photos of everyone, but my estimate for riding around the bikes and looking at a more critical mass in front of stages, upwards of 450. Definitely attended this festival this year with great report. Police department had no complaints. We had lots of complaints from the community, and I will say what was really neat, because the Gorgeous Half Marathon was on Sunday, I definitely encountered at least 6 groups of people who had come for the weekend. They came and they stayed in Shermansburg and surrounds, knew about the Porch Fest and or discovered Porch Fest and were staying for the half marathon. I'm told it's our brewery's biggest day of the year, but yet it was comfortable in there all day because people just flow. So I got a whole lot of T-bird love. after this weekend, the gorgeous half marathon, I would say, were 800 registrants, 775 ran. The winner was from New Jersey, which was also good for tourism. And the second, runner-up was he also, Ian Golden, was a great partner and did a lot of Bloomsburg and area, but primarily Bloomsburg shout out for things that people could do in advance of the race and during the race. So great about that.
What was the winning time? Do we know?
Oh, no. Don't. Definitely on big minutes. I know that like number 18 in a class from 8:22, so you could find that for sure. So it's gonna be. Oh, and then Raven, right? So then the weekend continued with Raven, which happens is the vintage market at the fairgrounds, the first Sunday that that. Actually, right, the parking was at the high school and then it was at the fairgrounds. I'm not mistaken, I will say, speaking of parking, the events and tourism committee is very keen on collaborating to see how we can maximize available parking spaces. And maybe even considering what business owners and or churches and what we have as actual parking assets. And there's some more public interest in helping them out too. Thinking about it, that's all I have.
And then TCFA dance recital.
Oh, June 18th. Oh, the TCFA dance recital was on Sunday as well.
And then the opening is on the 18th.
And the opening, you all know about the grand opening of the conservatory, the opening of the historic renovation happened, that will be on June 18th, which is a Thursday at 4:30. Good times there, especially if it's
I think that's a good question about, partly about parking. Are you going to put a map online somewhere? This
well, that's fantastic.
particularly one that could be on a phone, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it would be good to know when you make whoever you contract with to allow for garbage removal. Why don't we have a calendar? I play this game all the time.
Yeah,
We do.
We do.
We do.
I look over for it.
Yeah. Let me look into that, David.
I mean,
Make
because
sure
I
it's-
know what happens, obviously, is that periodically, a holiday will move that date of pickup. So we suffer an extra day of garbage sitting in the street.
Do we always post it on our website when it's moved?
That's how I know. I go,
But I might be able to, I'll check it out and see if I can make it.
Don't get me wrong, I've been here 10 years.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And I've asked multiple times,
Sure.
not here, but you know.
Yeah,
restaurants.
I always
We-
put my trash out anyway.
We posted it on our website when the date has moved since we've had this contractor. On our village website.
Yeah, I think it should be their responsibility actually to have a site that says here's what we're gonna go.
But yeah, that's a good suggestion, and we will, the conservatory actually has identified a parking area that they give to their clients, and so I'm investigating how to be more visible. Everyone who comes here to where we can fire process now, so yeah, that's.
Has there been a review of what may be happening down the corner with the new stone
What type,
part of this and all the rest of that stuff? I mean,
what type of,
Parking.
what type of review?
like, what are you gonna do for parking?
That would be part of the building permit of the site plan, so.
Yeah, so has that been reviewed?
Yes.
already?
Not by this board, because this board doesn't have jurisdiction. The planning board does, because of the site plan. So. Anything else from the clerk treasurer's office? All right, old business.
the vehicle lease is still in the meeting agenda.
That's old business.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
I'm segueing back for you now.
But first,
But first,
sorry,
I thought that was coming from someone else.
V and T law amendments.
Yes, so Joanna and I went back and forth on this. I'm a little bit running off the cuff here, but I think my plan would be to take a few minutes here to discuss the broad brushes of what the law would cover, and then we could have a draft for us to introduce and schedule a public hearing on, probably at our second meeting. And try and have a conversation, have that hearing and see about passing it in August. So the changes we're discussing are in conversation with the school, looking for two things. One is during drop off and pickup in the morning and afternoons, there's a stretch of Wig Street in front of the middle school that they would like to use as more deliberate drop off, park for a minute, drop your kid off, leave, keep that flow going, keep those spaces open. Right now that works somewhat well, but some people also park, get out with their kid, walk their kid to the elementary school, come on back, blocks up the traffic, blocks up that flow there. So one thing they're asking for is a no parking sign there. The other thing that they're looking for, which is benefit to them and for this kind of surrounding area, is school speed zones around the school, not just on Main Street. And so after chatting back and forth between Joanna and I think we can kind of talk about here how we want to structure that. I think the parking is pretty straightforward. We know where that stretch is. I'm suggesting, and Joanna and I were suggesting like 7:30 to 3:30 makes a good time. And that would be in our vehicle and traffic law. There's also a speeding law, which is a separate law. So we'll actually have one hearing for two laws, two hearings. I don't know. We're going to talk to Guy, tell us how many hearings we have to have.
2 hearings, same thing.
I think that's probably what we'll end up being, which would be great. That would be for the speeding. And so there's kind of 3 sections. One is Truman between Main and Wig. One is Wig Street from Truman to South. And then one is South Street from Wig to some period going out of town, some space going out of town, and we can decide kind of how deep that is. Joanna had suggested 200 feet south of the Historical Society because it is based off of the Historical Society. The Historical Society is a school building, and that is the school building from which we have to have you can't have a speeding zone further away than some quarter mile or something like that. But none of this would go further than that. But that's kind of the anchor on South Street. And so those were the areas. Like one question we could discuss is how far down the street from the Historical Society. And then the other question is what would the right speed zones be, what this actual speed mile per hour on those sections would be. 15 is the lowest we can go. They're already 25. So it's basically, do we go 20 or 15 is the question. And it could be different on those. So that's kind of the conversation for us to have. Once we get the kind of structure of that dialed in, then we can write up the actual law and kind of take it from there. I'm happy to kind of say where my head's at on some of these, but before I kind of do that, I figured I'd open up and see if there's any initial thoughts or strong opinions that.
No strong opinions. I would certainly want to get Chief's input, but I would go 15 on Truman and Wig.
That was
and
my
then
thought.
20 in South.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my head was at. South is much more of a kind of artery into town. I don't want to recognize that.
20 and 20 was 15. It's got to be 15 on Wig.
Yeah.
15 on Truman. 20 on South. I would go.
Can we go?
I would go to the village line on the east side of South Street, which is not Tamarack. So it's about 100 feet up,
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
That far? Okay. Well,
80 to 100 feet up. So if you're coming from Tamarack, you take a left on South, you're gonna get kind of, as you start up that little incline. I would probably drop it to 20 there, so that you're already hopefully doing 20 by the time you get to
right.
Crescent Way.
I'm trying to remember. I'll have to double check on exactly what.
It's plus lane, basically.
Right.
Right.
I try to remember exactly. I don't remember the number off the top of my head of how far from a school building you can go.
Nice. Oh,
It was like there. Can't remember how many. it was like a few hundred thousand, like it was 1,000+ feet. I can't quite remember the number. Just if I were to kind of rough that out. We might be able to get there. We may not be able to get all the way there. That's just, we might have to just go as far as we can, could be the other thing.
1,000 feet's a fifth of a mile. It's not that far from schoolhouse to Ploss.
Google at a rough guess is 2,000 feet from Ploss to this
Schoolhouse.
It's more of the on street.
Oh, sorry, I'm a little past, sorry, I went the other way. But even still, schoolhouse to maybe 1,700 square, 1,700 feet from
So
Ploss to
maybe,
schoolhouse.
maybe then just to the Crescent Way entrance. Maybe
That was actually where I had taken it. And so that might be a good way to just say from Crescent to South on, or sorry, Crescent to Wake on South Street. That we can definitely do, right? Because I was looking at that before. We could also do, I think the way the school zone on Main Street is, it's like just 300 feet, either side of the school. So we could just do like a number of feet, but if we wanted to make it on a particular road, which I think does make it a little cleaner, Crescent Way would be the one to attach to.
Is it linear on the street? I mean, not get too far.
I think it's supposed to be feet from the door or something, and I guess I don't know if it's direct. Say it again.
Main Street is quite a way already.
I do remember, actually, maybe this is a way to get kind of the number. I'm pretty sure I remember looking at not being able to get all the way to Main Street from, I want to say it was like, for some reason I have like 1,300 feet in my head. And I feel like it could get like past Wig Street and like halfway to Main Street on South, but it wasn't able to get all the way there. Or like 1,350 or something weird. I can't remember what it was. That might be, yeah, I can't remember. But so certainly we can go to Wig Street. And we can go to Crescent Way, certainly.
Mhm.
All right, so take that. Note, Truman Street, Lake Street, South Street. Anyway, all right. All right. That I think gives me what we need, 20 miles per hour on South Street, 15 on Truman and Wig. And nicely tucked between all those streets. So I think that's it. Then Joanna and I can get back with a draft law. Actually, here's a question for you. I don't know where we are in our process of E-code and everything, if it would make more sense one way or the other to either do a full repeal and replace and have like a nice coherent law, or just keep adding amendments until we just get to the E-code, and that's the, okay. So we're gonna do just little small amendments like we've done, because
For now, she'll ask progress.
great, no, then that's fine. I just noticed we're like, this is now the third VNT amendment, and I was like getting a little itchy, but if we're gonna kind of clean it all up in a couple more months, then I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, guys. Will South Street be 24/7 or will you guys flashing lights saying, well, school is in session?
All school zones would be school in session. I don't know what we mean about lights.
Yeah, that's a separate question. I would not want too many flashing lights in residential, but there will be signage that will say, school zone only. I think it's up to us how much, if we want flashing lights or not. Or the sign would say, school zone, so it's only during school hours, but it's up to us about lighting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see flashing yellows on the way. The intersection of Lincoln South and you come on the way.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking too.
Going from 25 to 20 on South is good, but not a,
Yeah.
hey, go slow. This kid's running across the street, like we might want to. No, that's what it does.
Plus, we're gonna have a crossing guard there, right? Or have one now?
We have one now.
Yeah.
We have one now. We have a crossing guard there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I would just want to get a little more people like input, because a flashing light, if it's, annoying and in your face in front of a. I think there it might not be that big of a deal. The next people on, Wig, the other side is the church, and then some, the next house is set pretty far back and there's a bunch of trees there, so it could be done in such a way that probably not bothering people, but I want to let people know before we kind of go do something like that.
Okay, anything else on V and T?
That's all I've got.
Okay, code car lease, this is back. Back for seconds, back for more from last month, clarification. That this lease does not have any cash due at signing. The number put in amount to be paid in cash has something to do with the program that generates the quote. The trade-in value of the car that's being returned doesn't have a place to go until the car is traded in. So they call it cash to give us the number we want. So that was the clarification. There will be no village dollars due at signing. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the new motor vehicle lease agreement for the code enforcement department.
Second.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the abstentions. Okay. Senior citizen property tax exemption. What have we learned since the last time we discussed this?
Did not, Jason.
I put that little chart in the SharePoint. Oh, but that's where I found our agenda packet. What do you mean we're not?
It's from the one I got.
Oh, it
Uh-huh.
just. Yeah. Okay, anyway, Ben, did you want to talk?
Yeah, so just let's see, to catch us all up, we have the option now to give a further exemption to certain income ranges for property taxes up until whatever last year or some year before, it was up to 50% exemption for people making up to a certain dollar amount, and we get to basically pick that dollar amount. And then it kind of scales up from there. You have like 45% off at another $1,000 above that, 40% $1,000 above that, so on and so forth. My understanding of the law change is that we can now give a 55%, 60%, and 65% off at going the other way, making $1,000 less and $1,000 less, so on and so forth. And so we're going to discuss adopting that. I guess I don't know if we have.
So, and what Kara's had, they're stating a red blue chart that initially came.
Right.
State legislature there unless they're sharing.
Right, so let me put numbers to that. So we currently say our 50% level, so in the chart, it says our 50% level is at $35,000. Which is slightly different than the number I have, but anywho. And we go down to 5%. And I believe that the way that that works is it's roughly every 1,000. I guess it's not quite. There's some calculation where, that phases out over your income grade. If we want to adopt this new change, does that require a law or is that sorry, I prepared for the numbers, but not the actual process.
You have to be.
A local law. So it says to apply this change, a local law must be adopted by. So we'll have to actually keep this in our business and have a law.
To draft the local law.
Yeah.
What's the what are the options? Some are-
So the options are, my understanding, we can change the, like, that 50%, we can change where we put that 50% level, so we could change the income point at which that assesses, and then if we adopt this, it goes from that 55, then 55% off, 60% off, 65% off, and those reach 1,000-ish less dollars than that 50%. So there's a,
Did you get as far as figuring out what the total impact would be if we went to the max?
I think we had that. I thought we had that. It's, for us, it would mean it's only apply to people making less than $35,000. And it would be a little more off for those folks. And I don't know, let me see if that email has it real quick.
No, Jay would explain what the impact would be to the village.
There was then.
There
some-
was.
It was first discussed.
Yeah, my recollection is we kind of got to the point of being like, yeah, let's do it, but then now we have to kind of remember how we got there.
Service.
Don't we know that we had an impact number? I think that's what we were waiting.
Mhm.
It shows 29 property owners received the senior exemption. But do we know? I think
He did send some.
he did. So it's, yeah, so we have it, but we haven't like probably put it in a place that we can actually do much with it. The combined exemption amount of 3.3 million. So it's 3.3 million of property value, but not all of that would apply to this. So it's hard to, that can give you an upper bound is the most of whatever our tax rate is against 3.3 million of assessment. But it's likely to be quite a bit less than that. I don't,
29 properties you said got the exemption.
currently, and so this is only. And that exemption ranges up to people making as much as 43,000 and change. But what we're changing would only apply to people making less than
Then
34,000 and change. So it's less than that whole group.
Right.
But I don't know if we have. Yeah, that was the one I was looking at. But this doesn't say. Oh, no, it does say percent of value exempt. I don't know how to read this to give us like a more specific number. I don't know if we got that part.
I think Jay's office calculate that for us. So I think if we have parallel law to introduce, so none of this. So
Yeah.
we would have had to have done this by March.
No, we decided this is good for the upcoming.
But so it was March for this year's tax rolls, then we've got till next March for next year's tax rolls, so there's no rush. But if we get a local law prep to introduce in July or August, along with having the assessment department calculate what the actual dollar impact would be, so they'd have to go through all 27 people and see who changes
Okay.
and by how much.
I can do that. I can ask it more, an updated exemption impact report. We got the report.
I don't want an impact report. I want assessment to calculate the actual dollar value difference on our 2028 tax bill based off of the 2027 tax rolls that'll be affected by this local law. Those 27 people, how much less will they pay?
Yeah, okay,
And someone in that office can do the math
okay.
at the 65%. My guess is it's not gonna be a very big number.
I can't imagine it's gonna be a big one, but it's good to
Potentially mean swings.
Yeah. I think and I know like Ben and I had some conversations too about, how does this work and is this the right approach? And I think where I came to is because it's such a small group and it's only adding that 5 to 10 to 15% more reduction for people making less than $35,000. I'm not worried about it. There, you could imagine a scenario where it's people making a lot more than that and getting a higher reduction. And then there's a question of, is that really where we want to spread our tax dollars and so forth? But I don't think we're in that world.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you also take the drafting the law part of it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We would have something on file from several years ago now. Related to veterans status section.
Okay.
We find that and we can use the same range.
Okay.
Okay. Fire station renovation. Some homework on this for us. We have a proposal for fiscal services from our fiscal agent, Municipal Solutions, for the everything related to the congressional appropriation is a reimbursable. So that means we have to have a certain amount of cash flow in order to do the project. That involves borrowing on a short-term basis. Municipal Solutions is the fiscal agent that finds us bond counsel and administers some of the record keeping and paperwork associated with the borrowing. Their fee for this current project is on a not to exceed basis up to $10,000 for their services. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the contract for services with Municipal Solutions for the fire station renovation project for an amount up to $10,000. If someone would like to.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Comments or questions?
is there a document of the meeting materials or you just gotta read it?
It's 6DI Dropbox. Dropbox.
I mean, I've got both of them, so I really don't mind. I don't think it ended up in the meeting ones that I'm looking at.
It's just a
It's a single little letter,
3-page letter with a signature page.
or it's then go.
No.
Got it.
Nope, sorry, that's not.
That's not Oric, which is in the
Not
packet, but it's
Or
not
business.
in,
Don't get it.
Failed errors.
Did you find it?
I found it in the Dropbox.
60, yeah. All right, Dropbox is always there.
Now that I've seen it, I feel, not that I thought you misrepresented it in any way.
So
but-
the scope of services includes preparing a notice of sale, conducting the note of sale, preparing, converting, and arranging for distribution with final official statement, coordinating closing. Fiscal services, including establishing monthly cash flow needs, preparation of information, construction meetings, maturity schedules, etc. Anyone has never done this before, it's a lot of fun. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving the contract for services with Municipal Solutions, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and abstentions. Now to Oric. Oric is bond counsel. So attorneys out of New York City. They are prepared to sell up to $3,500,000 of short-term bonds for cash flow purposes for the fire station renovation. This is technically, although it doesn't say it on here, this is technically a bond anticipation note, not the long-term bonds themselves. So once the bond anticipation note is closed via reimbursement from the congressional funding, then there'll be no more loan. If we were to go over, then we would have to issue a long-term bond for whatever that overage is. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the proposal for bond counsel services with Oric. Someone would like to move that.
Second.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any other items of old business? New business, right on time. EMS. New facility. We begin the process this evening with a resolution to declare our intent to be lead agency for the purposes of seeker. Hopefully everyone can see the seeker EAF, Environmental Assessment Form Part 1. It will be substantially similar in findings to what we did for fire last month. I will not go through every line. I will read the brief description of proposed action. The Village of Trumansburg is proposing to build a new emergency medical services facility located at the corner of Hector and Halsey Streets. The primary objective of the project is to provide a dedicated facility for the EMS department that includes necessary space crucial to maintain adequate emergency services within the village and surrounding communities. The proposed features for the project include, but are not limited to, creation of an approximately 4,000 square foot facility to include apparatus bays, bunk rooms, office space, and parking area for EMS employees, and installation of utilities for use within the building. Project will incorporate miscellaneous site improvements, landscaping, and stormwater conveyance, and will incorporate all other necessary and ancillary improvements to support the new facility. Seeing if there's anything checked yes that we need to discuss. Lots of no's checked. Does the proposed action include new non-residential construction? Yes. Will it create demand for water? Yes. We've got lots of water. We'll use public wastewater treatment facilities. Got that too. Some no's. Will the proposed action produce noise that will exceed existing ambient noise levels during construction? Yes. Sorry, folks. Will there be outdoor lighting? Yes. We will not have an LED sign like the school. It's the only big yeses that I see. Any board comments or questions on the EAF part 1?
Not that this is really related, but I know when we were talking about this last month, Dusty had concerns about the water main. Turns out it hugs kind of the outside property boundary. So it actually is unlikely to be a problem, but obviously MRB will keep an eye on that.
Yeah, they had a meeting last week.
Oh, good.
MRB and Dusty, they went over a bunch of things, including access to the tower and that access road and where the building would be situated relative to that, on-site drainage issues, things like that.
The drainage was an important because we do have to drain the water tower every 5-10 years. I can't remember what it is to inspect it and just get all the slud, like just the deposits out of it. They just come naturally with water and it becomes an absolute swamp back there for a couple of days as it drains out. So. Yeah.
It's very swampy in that property anyway. When it rains really heavy, the
Yeah.
water sits. So, yeah.
There'll have to be some storm drains in the parking area.
So I'm only laughing because like been spending so much time with stormwater in the past.
Oh, I know. You must dream about it.
Like you and everybody else, Marcia.
That water just sits there, man.
Anyhow.
We're a very wet village.
For being in the side of a hill.
Yes. And to think that the water tower, that's the highest point.
It all drains down from there and yet still.
There's one step in this site.
The site itself.
Thought it was.
No, there was an effort. Put a year on it, it's been a long time. There was an effort to turn it into an official park along with the farmer's market at one point. My predecessor, to his credit, wisely said that, well, once you park something, you can't unpark it. So I guess in this case, it's fortunate we never did because we need it. Okay, I will read this resolution then for someone to move. Whereas the Village of Trumansburg Village Board of Trustees has reviewed the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act Full Environmental Assessment Form Part 1, prepared by the MRB Group on the above referenced Village of Trumansburg EMS building project. And whereas the village board determines that said action is classified as an unlisted action under the state environmental quality review regulations. And whereas the village board determines that said action is also subject to review and approval by other involved agencies under seeker regulations. And whereas the village board determines that it is the most appropriate agency to ensure the coordination of this action and will provide written notifications to involved agencies for the purpose of conducting a coordinated review and making the determination of significance thereon under the seeker regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the village board does hereby declare its intent to be designated as the lead agency for the action and directs the mayor to sign and date the full EAF Part 1. Be it further resolved that the project engineer is directed to provide notice hereof to the involved and interested agencies seeking their agreement or objection thereto in writing. Someone like to move that over.
Second.
Comments or questions? So we continue to provide emergency services to the entire region. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, any other items of new business?
It's actually, the resolution to reopen, 384D chapters, blah, 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 blah. For
Do we have
retirement, there's a
those?
resolution in there, should be resolution.
There, I do see,
There it is.
I see it in the Dropbox.
Huge.
So you may recall that we did we did a lot of work to get a couple of bills passed in the Assembly and Senate to amend the state retirement status of 3 of our police officers. That was passed last year. We approved one of those already. There's 2 remaining to be approved for 2 of our officers. So in order to make that final and formal, we need this resolution passed, which states simply, be it resolved that the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees does hereby elect to reopen Section 384D of the Retirement and Social Security Law pursuant to Chapter 559 and Chapter 556 of the laws of 2025. So,
Second.
comments or questions?
This is the last section.
Yes.
Amen.
Do you ever,
Prior to the bill. Last thing is actually checks getting written.
prior to the bill?
Receiving the invoice, I should say.
Oh, that bill.
State retirement, yeah.
Yeah,
Because there was also a bill passing moment that
Yes,
was
there was a.
that's this.
This is a resolution.
I had seen.
Referring to the past bills,
Bills
the
of the past.
villages affirmatively
Got it. I
adopting.
was gonna have a heart attack for a second. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're done with session this year, so like, we have to wait another year. Just the dollar bills, that's money bill.
So all in favor of approving this resolution as presented, moved and seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, any other items of business? Second public comment period. Anyone would like to make any comment or ask any questions? In person or online? If you're online, please use the raise hand feature. Yes, Marie.
Again, it's always a pleasure to be here and actually hear your conversation and the business of the board. As you presented, completely transparent in the work that you do. Personal note, I know my husband became facility chair and his own committee of the Presbyterian Church. And the things that he has had to take care of the business with anyone in the village. He's been most appreciative of Jessica's help when he had to call about some grant information and about the fire marshal and code enforcement officer. He has found everyone to be very, very helpful and appreciative of their guidance and his new role. And he appreciates that they've commented about how compliant he is on their recommendations. And he joked that that was always his business in life, is trying to get people to be compliant, so you know that he needs to be. So he very much appreciates that. I just had a question about the sidewalk and the bricks. You still have the cataloging of the bricks and their location for those that have been inscribed. I know Eagle Scout had done that as a project a number of years ago.
We tend to have the names of the bricks, the exact location of where they are, so probably on that spreadsheet, but I wasn't looking at it, so I'll go check.
Okay. And then your consideration about what to do with those bricks. Were there different amounts that people paid to have them and perhaps consider that a memorial for somebody? And I just asked that question because when it's at the school, when they desecrated a place there and bricks that were involved from Old Main Street and the building that, I know you've talked about it, being very careful about what to do with those bricks. And hope that gives full consideration, moving forward, what happens to those that are inscribed. Because they, may be very special to some people to visit those sites that are there. And then you spoke about the change in number of the people in the fire department, mentioning in half over how long a period?
15 years.
So in 15 years, if we're at half, and that half's again is 15 years. If you build it, they will come. Are we anticipating our department will grow, or what is the viability? What number of staff do you need to be able to continue to provide those services?
We were on such a happy note, Maureen. when
Yeah.
I asked that question. Personal opinion or?
Both. I probably like your personal, but well, yeah.
So my personal opinion is that all fire services in New York State will be paid in my lifetime.
I hate this answer.
And
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that that'll be a long time, so I don't know when that'll be.
But your longevity.
But it's,
But there is still. I don't mind saying this publicly, I've said it publicly before. There is still what I believe to be the misplaced hope of some. That there is some way to magically resurrect the volunteerism levels of days gone by. And I don't believe that that's reality. I think there's been generational changes and shifts and had a long conversation about this with Assemblymember Kellis once. The generational shifts, demographic shifts, birth death ratio, the number of kids people are having, the fact that most two-parent households have both parents working, where 40 years ago that wasn't perhaps the case. All of those things. It's the same reason why we can't find it. If you picked a soapbox for me to step up onto. It's the same reason why we have a very hard time finding people to sit on ZBAs and planning boards and every volunteer not-for-profit. There's a lot of energy when it's founded, and then 20 years later it's gone unless it becomes a very large effort. So unfortunately, I think all fire becomes what EMS is now, which is paid. Who runs that service will depend on, there's going to be a lot of, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fighting over that when the time comes. So that's my personal opinion. As mayor, it's my job to extend that timeline as long as humanly possible. And some of that comes with, I think the fire department was at the middle school today, showing off one of the fire trucks. A new facility certainly doesn't hurt with recruitment. Doing more activities between the fire company and the school is something that Chief Shearer and I agree is a good thing. So, if it's halved in 15 years from now, if we can be the same, it would be a miracle. Do I think it can grow?
No.
I think we added, what was it, 6 new members this year? So I mean, if you just look, we do, this particular fire company does buck a lot of trends, including age of membership.
Yeah, ours is old.
Well, no, ours is not,
I mean, not in comparison, but
ours is very young.
young.
In comparison to surrounding fire companies. So if you look, the line officers I swore in Friday night, chief, deputy chief, and the assistant chiefs. Make sure I don't age anyone incorrectly. Only one of them is over the age of 50. 4 of them are under the age of 40. You will not see that in a fire company anywhere else in upstate New York, I don't believe. Not a volunteer one. So that's a big deal. So if we can backfill that pipelines and add 3 or 4 younger members a year over the next decade, then I think we keep the numbers steady. If we have a year like we did last year, the year before, where there were no new members that joined, then I think the trend continues. My hope is that if we're looking at this as some kind of a graph, that we've started to level off at a bottom. I'm not of the opinion that there is any future where the graph begins an upward trend. I don't think that generationally, demographically, economically, I don't think that exists in our future. I'd be more than happy to be wrong about that, and that's the effort, is to try to. It's rare when it's a rare occasion when you work hard to try to prove yourself wrong, but this would be one of those times.
Thank you.
And 2 years ago, we were a huge farming community. So there were farmers that were available, that were in town, that could, drop some things to go drive. And that's one of the reasons why we have a shortage of school bus drivers. We used to have farmers around that in between their chores and being in the field, they could go work early in the morning and go back in the afternoon. But you don't have that luxury now of people that are like, I can't only work 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon and take a trip and survive, So I think that, just like Gordon said, that whole shift of how people work and where people work now cause a big gap in that.
And I will say, on a slightly more positive note, the larger fire companies that seem to have better numbers in our area tend to be the ones in a community with a school district. So Trumansburg, Lansing, Dryden. Those three in particular that come to mind have larger school districts relative to, you know, somewhere more rural or relative to, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but if there are other fire companies that aren't, particularly town fire companies that aren't immediately affiliated with a community that has its own school district that are struggling. But when you look at Dryden, Lansing, and Trumansburg, it feels like there's a bit of a leveling off happening after some generational decline. So there is definitely a link between, and I don't believe that has to do with school age teenagers and graduates joining the fire company. I think it has to do with families and folks that find the school district they want to be in, and some of them will be of an inclination in an age where they might be willing to volunteer. I think there's definitely when you look at our line officers, there's definitely a connection between the two, where every single one of our line officers now has kids in the district. So there's a connection there that I hope we can encourage and maintain. And again, if 15 years from now we have the same number we do today, that'll be much that'll be very well received, I think, by whoever else is sitting in these chairs that don't know.
Not us.
Who knows? Other questions?
A question, going back to this idea about having a map for parking. We could also on that map be able to see what this new speed limits are going to be in the different areas. Garbage, so we've talked about before about it, but it brings up a point. I moved here about 11 years ago. Nobody told me anything. I didn't even know I needed to. Now 10 years later, spend over $700 to get my mail. You know, because I live on Main Street. I didn't know. I literally didn't know. I thought I was gonna get mail. I gave people my address. I didn't know for like 2 months that I had to go.
Get a post office box.
It'd be nice to know. I mean, you know, you look at a place like Mielke's down here next to, you know, Hillside. I don't know what, in the last 3 years, 20 people have been through there. Not a one of them knew what the hell's going on when they got here. And half the time they were asking me about garbage, I couldn't tell them. So, you know, is there some way to help people on board here?
Yeah, a landlord should be
Well,
partly
I
responsible
do
for
agree
that.
They have
Yeah.
they have some initiating capability, but
We have a new
they
resident.
know.
We have a new residents welcome guide that we've had for many, many years. The difficult part is how to get it to those folks.
Yeah, I agree.
There is no capacity or desire on the part of the village, and I think I can speak for everyone, for us to try to keep track of everyone who comes in and out of the village.
Sure.
Specifically because of the reason where you've had, you know, 20 different people moving in and out. But maybe.
Well, let me add to it. What they all have is. Many of these people have silences
Right.
somewhere along the line. So having the landlord provide along with the lease that graphic. You know, indicating how they could know where they are, or whatever, the time it is, all that stuff.
Yeah, that would be
It'd be
wonderful.
quite, I think it'd be helpful. In also in other languages.
Yeah,
Another line of collaboration.
yeah, that might be interesting. One other thing on the fire department, fire company soapbox. The one danger to the most rosy outlook 15 years from now, where we have the same number that we have today. The one big existential threat to that is state government. Because there is a lot of pressure on Albany from the firefighter unions to increase requirements on volunteer firefighters from a training perspective. And OSHA's involved in some of that too.
Oh, yeah.
So if we get to a place where That's what happened with EMS, right? If we get to a place where there's certification requirements or training requirements that are too onerous for people to keep up with, then we'll lose even the willing.
Yeah, we had a couple of volunteers at Lowe's, young men, trying to figure out what to do and thought they would go that route, and it was just too difficult for them. Yeah, they had the will, they just couldn't find a way to get there.
All right, any other public comment? We have need of a brief executive session.
Yeah, I guess I said so, I'll keep it very brief.
So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a DPW personnel matter.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for,
Thank you.
have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.